Alright, if you're here, it's because you want to know a little bit more about Rise of Berk's Brawl Dragons. A question I see a lot is which ones are the best? It's a good question, but unfortunately it's very hard to answer. A lot of it is based on preference, just kind of what playstyle you have, and also what dragons you have available to you. In this case, this is my tier list. This is how I've pegged each dragon, again, based on my opinions. But if anyone disagrees, I'd be happy to talk about it. At the end of the day, I just want to get something that's accurate, that a lot of people can just look at and reliably pick something and say, oh, yeah, this will work for me. So first 10 minutes of this is just going to be theory. If you want to skip the theory, skip it. I won't fault you for it. So first thing to know about Brawl, if you don't know already, the opponents that you face in Brawl, their grade is determined upon the highest grade that you have. So say here I've got a grade 10 Sleuther. That means all the enemies are going to be based around that grade, sometimes a little lower, sometimes a little higher, but it'll be based around that number. Even if Sleuther was stored away in my hangar, not being used, it would still be based around the grade 10, it just goes off whatever highest Brawl Dragon you have overall. So as a rule, try not to level up your dragons above the max that you have. Really, Sleuther is the highest grade I think that you'll get to, and there's really no need to go higher than that. So for the dragons that you do have, just get them up as much as you can, but don't go over the max that you have. Otherwise, you're really just giving yourself less to work with. When I play Brawl, I'd usually use dragons that are maybe 2 grades below the max, but 3 or 4 grades below the max, it really hurts, so try not to do that. Now, when you're getting into Brawl, this is not official statistics, but this is kind of what I've pulled from observation. When you get into Brawl, there's a chance that one of these dragons is going to be, or 22% chance it'll be Protector, 30% chance it will be Furious, 30% chance it will be Cunning, and 18% chance it will be Swift. So, you know, in all, you're going to face a lot less Swift dragons and a lot more Furious and Cunning. And because of this bias, generally it's a good idea to use Furious dragons on Brawl, like I'm using 3. Just because if there's less chance of Swift, that means there's just a less chance that there's going to be a dragon with the upper hand on you. Simple as that. You don't have to use Furious though, it's obviously up to you. You can use Furious in a number of combinations, but yeah. Another misconception that a lot of people found, or I've found, the rarer the dragon is does not necessarily equate to how good it is. There are some common dragons that are really good, actually, and some heroic dragons that are garbage, or at least I think they are. So yeah, don't discount the some of the common dragons you might have. They'd still be useful to you. Another thing to note is class attributes. Now, for each class, they've all got just the preset same. Say, for example, all your dragons are grade 30. All the same grade. Your Furious dragons, you're all going to have the same HP and same attack. Your Protector dragons, they're all going to have the same HP and attack, same with Cunning and Swift. So yeah, attributes to stay the same for that class. Protector dragons have more health than any other class. Swift dragons have the least amount of health, making them the most chewable. Furious, they have the highest attack. Cunning have the highest special. Protector has the highest defense, and Swift has the highest speed, obviously. The only attribute that actually differs between them all, regardless of class, is the evasion attribute, and that's just the chance of being able to dodge an attack. It doesn't make a huge impact, but I've sort of noted it in some cases here. Happy Arena 2 Day. So, what's next? The basic attacks per class. I hope you would already sort of understand the basics. You know, you got your basic Furious attack, your basic damage buff, and for your cunning, you know, basic attack, and basic weakness. I rate them, all the basic attacks, just equal to one another, because every class, they have their cons, they have their pros, it just depends on how you use them, so all the basic attacks are equal. One thing that's a little bit odd that I thought I'd mention, some dragons have the ability to perform a double attack. Earlier in the game, when you don't have too much going for you, it's not likely you'll have a heroic precision statue, and in those cases it means you have the possibility of missing your enemies in Brawl, basically, which isn't pleasant. But if you want to try and combat that a little bit, if you have an enemy that's very close to death, obviously you want to make sure it's down before it can take a turn. The focus on Brawl should always be taking one down at a time. The more dragons there are, the more AP there is. It means the more powerful they are. So generally, you want to take down one dragon at a time and just trying to get that AP down. So yeah, if you've got one close to death, you really want to focus on it. You don't want to miss. If you've got a dragon that attacks twice, there's a much more likely chance that you're actually going to down it. Because if your first attack misses, that's okay, you got a second attack. Down, done. Later on, when you do have heroic precision though, that double attack it doesn't really mean much, it's just an attack. Does the same amount of damage, so I rank the double damage same as any other. There are 42 total Brawl dragons. In this case, I don't have the champions. I'm just using a temporary game, just with the basic dragons here to show. These are all the starting grades that they're on, except for the ones that I goofed up on and leveled up when I shouldn't have. But I'll make note of those. Now to the actual tiering of them. So my tiering, we've got tier 1, just the godly, amazing rank. Tier 2 are decent, they work well. Tier 3, they work. And tier 4 are not really that great, I would not use them. I grade them all on how their abilities are, how situational they are, how useful their abilities are, if the abilities have a lot of synergy with their class and their other abilities, and sort of touch upon what their evasion is like and their starting grade. The thing about starting grade is these more common dragons, like the Gronckle, the Whispering Death, Timberjack, it's very unlikely you're going to see them coming with you later in the game, just because you're going to need thousands of tokens to actually level them up. By the time you get to Arena 7 and you've got grade 10s and 9s, you're going to be sticking with those. So, as a start, I got an interesting one to start on, really. Sleuther. Interesting, is a triple strike, which means he's got the attack that deals a small amount of damage to all rival dragons. This is interesting, and once again, one that is mainly useful for when you're just trying to get rid of the stragglers that are left. If you've got a down dragon, it's a lot better to use this triple attack on all three of them, thus downing one, than wasting a dragon's entire basic attack on the one weak dragon. Over damage is something you sort of want to avoid. It's not the end of the world, but you want to conserve higher damage for, you know, things with more health. Sleuther has a second ability that increases attack strength of all furious dragons. This increases the attack strength 30% compared to the average 25%. It's very situational, of course. Obviously only useful if you've got some other furious dragons in your team. In this case, luckily I do, but not everyone's going to have an armada of furious dragons. And even with 3 furious dragons, it's an ability that I wouldn't use a lot anyway. It's not an attack in itself, so playing this ability doesn't deal any damage in itself. And it's also only useful if your other furious dragons are still alive. So yeah, very situational. And not that great. The third ability is again situational. It's only going to be useful if your 2 other dragons are still alive. But it's 5 AP, meaning it's going to take you a while to get to actually using that ability, which means it's very possible that one of your other dragons have died. What this basically does, you're spending 5 AP to sort of skip Sleuther's turn, and then your other 2 dragons can use whatever ability they want, and preferably you want to use the highest abilities to make the most out of it and deal the most damage. But again, they have to be alive, and have to be decent abilities for you to actually get anything out of that. Very situational, but it still works, still decent. You just gotta sort of play your cards right with Sleuther. I sort of rank him a low tier 2, bordering on tier 3, but I like him. Next is Hookfang. Hookfang has a basic attack. His second ability is very odd, I think. First of all, it's not an attack in itself, and it increases the defense of all furious dragons by 30%. Now, if you have furious dragons that you're working with, 3 of them, well, furious dragon, the aim of them is to, you know, attack with hard damage, waste no time, just really get into them and shake them up a bit. But having this ability to add defense to all your furious dragons seems a little bit backwards to me. I wouldn't be wasting 3 AP to defend my dragons when I should be focusing on just obliterating the other dragons. If you focus on the other dragons hard and fast enough, you'll get to a point where you won't need to defend yourself at all. With 3 furious dragons, I can often kill the entire team without one of my dragons going down, just because I hit them hard and you hit them fast. So to me, this ability is kind of useless. Might be okay in Gauntlet, but this is not Gauntlet. His third ability is Blind. It's an interesting one, hard to explain. Generally, you'll have one enemy that you target with this. It blinds them, which means they treat every one of your enemies as their rivals as well. So basically, they'll just attack the nearest Monstrous Nightmare to them. Poor thing never stood a chance. It can be very funny, especially when you're blinding one dragon with very high AP, because it wastes their high AP on their allies, and they will get obliterated. This blind, it works really well actually, and even in one-offs, it works well when, you know, you've got all 6 dragons on the field, but even when it's just you and someone else, Hookfang will always win if he's the last one standing, because he can blind them. They can't do anything for you for 2 turns. It gives you plenty of time to deal damage and even blind again if need be. So for this one, I rate solid tier 2. It's good. If the second ability was something else, I would rate it higher. It's only really good for its third ability and just general furiousness, but yeah, tier 2. We've got, if I sort this correctly, the Boneknapper. Used him for a while, but he's not the greatest. There's better options, but still okay if you've got him. He's got the general 2 basic skills, but his third ability is very odd for its class. It's very out of place for, in my opinion, out of place for what a Furious Dragon should do. It's like having that one coworker at work that doesn't speak English and nobody can understand them, but you know, they just sort of do their job anyway, so you know, who cares? When I was using Boneknapper, I never used this ability. But basically, it decreases the defense of all rival dragons. Special ability is disabled, but this attack doesn't do anything in itself. It doesn't deal damage in itself. And again, if you've got a Furious Dragon, you should just be hammering as hard as you can and focusing on the one enemy as hard as you can. Wasting a turn to not attack, just to debuff them a little, it's okay, and it might work out, but especially when it's when all your other dragons are down and it's just you, this ability is not going to do anything for you. You'll attack and then they'll just gang up on you, so it's meh. But I give it tier 3. It works. It has a little less evasion than the average though. He's big and full of bones. The Thunderdrum. Just gonna put it out there, it's my favorite. Used him for a little while and then he sort of got behind on grades, but recently I've actually had enough tokens to level him up, which I'm very happy about. He is great. Very general basic 2 attacks, but his third ability is godly. It deals damage to all rival dragons, and it locks their abilities, which is incredible, because not only are you dealing the damage and hopefully offing a few, you're preventing them from making any meaningful damage or even healing themselves the next turn. So it's crippling, and I love it. It also has quite a high evasion compared to the normal, because it does what a Furious Dragon is supposed to do, and for 4 AP for such a good attack, it arguably one of the best dragons of Brawl. So there you go. If that's what you came here for, then you can leave the video now. But yeah, very high tier 1. Champion Whiplash. Whiplash is a different. Champion Whipslash. An odd one again. Basic attack. The second ability, again, isn't an attack in itself. It increases the attack strength of Whipslash greatly. It's 45% compared to the average of 25%. Also speeds up the dragon by 25%. And it locks the ability for 2 turns, which is odd. Usually your tactic with Furious Dragons is that you buff them with the 2 AP, and then you save up enough AP to deal even higher damage with their third ability. Champion Whipslash can't do this, because he disables himself. So yeah, it makes it a very odd choice, and you have to be a little bit more strategic about it. It can work well, but it's not very versatile. And speed, I found, is not all that great of a buff. The thing with speed in Brawl, I guess it really just comes down to how the developers have really pinned this. It's with Brawl, everything is about timing. Having the sidebar and knowing which dragon's turn is next is very important, and being aware of that, it's the main meat of the strategy of Brawl. When a dragon's sped up, it can jump all over the place on that scale, and you don't really have a good indication, which makes it a little bit annoying. So having speed is very hard to strategize with. So for this champion Whip Slash, I mean, he's also got his third ability that deals damage to all rival dragons, removes positive effects from all rival dragons, removes AP points, which is, yeah, still decent, but you're pretty much choosing one or the other, and it really locks off this dragon to being strategic. I rate him a high tier 3. He works, but no. He's also got a very high evasion, which is nice. Let's see, next we've got Lump. Lump, general high damage, the general buff. He's got a third ability, 4 AP to deal high damage and stun a dragon. This is pretty good, but generally if I have an ability that costs 4 AP, I want it to affect more than one dragon, generally as a principle. 4 AP is expensive, especially just for one little dragon. Not to mention there are dragons that do the same thing, stun and damage, for less AP. And there's a big old strategy around that as well, but 4 AP is just a little bit too much, I think. It also doesn't have that great an evasion. It's got less than the average, but still, if you got it, it's not bad. Low tier 2, I would rate it. It does okay. Champion Catastrophic Quaken. Alright, so this one's lovely. This one, as stated in the beginning, hits double, but the damage is split evenly. It doesn't really matter too much unless you're starting out in the game. General buff, and this one's even worse than Lump. Deals damage to a rival dragon and stuns them, but it's 5 AP, and that is very expensive. 5 AP for one little dragon. It's one thing to consider is you can easily take out a single dragon with 2 AP, really, if you wanted to. Good strategy is to weaken it with 2 AP, and then if you've got 2 high damage other dragons on your team, their basic attacks will do just fine taking it down, and I've seen it work perfectly well. So this 5 AP for one dragon business, I'm not a huge fan of. I rate it a tier 3. I never really use the ability. It's okay for, you know, when you're the last one standing, but that you should try and avoid that, obviously. So yeah, tier 3 for champion Catastrophic Quaken. Next is Deadly Nadder. Basic attack, basic buff. Again, deals damage to a single dragon and removes AP. Like I said before, 4 AP for a single dragon, it's meh. Average evasion, it's a very average Furious Dragon. Tier 3. I can't even talk anymore. Monstrous Nightmare. Okay, a little bit of Aussie slipped out there. Monstrous Nightmare. Basic damage, basic buff. This one deals damage to a rival dragon, but it's 3 AP and there's nothing special about it. It is really average. And not to mention, it's a rookie dragon. It's like the first dragon you'll use in Brawl, I think the very first. And it's very unlikely that you're going to get enough tokens to actually level them up to, you know, stick with your team for the rest of the arenas. I mean, you're going to be having a second son named Timmy before you get this dragon leveled up to the max. So I wouldn't pay too much attention to him. He's great, you know, as a beginner dragon, perfectly fine, but he's average. He's a low tier 3, not to mention his evasion is less than average. Defender Gronckle, general high damage, average attack glare. Now, his third ability deals damage to a rival damage, but it increases the attack strength of all allied dragons for 2 turns. it's basically the second ability, but I mean, you're giving your 2 other dragons a buff. Again, this is obviously only useful if your other dragons are alive. But it's not too bad. It's okay. I would rate him tier 3-ish. Oh, great. Dagur's Skrill. The Nightmare. Berk. He was for me for ages. Then I kind of got used to him. He's scary, but when you digest it a little bit more, he's not so scary. I mean, he'll shank you. If you're not looking, he will stab you. But you'll still be able to walk. Now, he's got the average attacks, but everyone's terrified of his third ability. It's 5 AP to deal damage to all rival dragons, and it also removes your AP points. This is devastating because without your AP points, you can't recover from something like that. You can't heal yourself from that. And it's what gets a lot of people. But the workaround, really, again, is singular dragon targeting. If you see Dagur Skrill on the field, or when I see him on the field, I will end him. I always have just him in my mind, where I got those one of the little hitman photos just sitting on my monitor with Dagur Skrill. Whenever he pops up next, I will obliterate him. That's pretty much my strategy for him, but hey, it works. Just because it takes some ages to get 5 AP, and you can easily down him before he gets to that point. So, scary, but avoidable. But if you had Dagur Skrill, you're actually smart and you're not AI. And just because of this, I mean, the damage output that it can have is crazy. And again, removing attack points, it's unrecoverable for them. So, tier 1, easily. I'm sure that doesn't surprise a lot of people. It also has high evasion, so good job, Dagur Skrill. Okay, next, Protector Dragons. Brute, Boneknapper. I like him. He's cool. General damage, general health buff. His third ability, it's a little odd. I don't think it has the... Well, I'll go on to it. It deals damage to a rival dragon. It stuns them, which is great. And also decreases their defense. One thing I don't really understand too much, this attack alone does a ton of damage. So also adding the weakness to it, I mean, when you're already targeting one dragon at a time, it doesn't usually need that weakness, especially after dealing that much damage to it alone. The weakness never usually actually plays a huge role, and especially when it's stunned, it might as well be dead anyway, because you can just deal with it the next turn. So the weakness doesn't really do too much, but it's 4 AP, deals a lot of damage and stuns. It's okay. I'm not going to complain too much about it. It's decent. It's a tier 2. And I've used him for quite a lot, and use him in Gauntlets a lot as well. He's lovely. Hotburple. What a name. Basic attack, basic buff. His third ability shields ally dragons by 25%, and also removes the negative effects from all ally dragons. This is okay. It would work great in Brawl, especially since, it would work great in Gauntlet, because Gauntlet's all about, trying to get through as many waves as you can. But in Brawl, as I said before, you really just want to get rid of the dragons as fast as you can before they actually have a chance to deal damage and negative effects on you. So I don't really see myself using this third ability much at all. It works well when it's used, but you just don't need to use it often. It's also got poor evasion, like it's 2 at grade 5. It's not great. But tier 3, if you've got it, he works. He'll do. Snafflefang. I love Snafflefang. I just wish I had him leveled up nicely. General damage, general health, but he stuns for 3 AP, which is godly. One thing that's amazing about this is that if you've got all 3 dragons, you know, getting 1 AP for every dragon that you've got in the field, you can stun with Snafflefang every single round, which is amazing. Because in a sense, it technically means your enemies are just basically reduced to, what, 2? Because there's one that just, he can't do anything to you. Which is amazing. And if you can stun something like Dagur, Skrill, or one of the more powerful dragons, it's a lifesaver. Love this dragon in pieces. Again, just wish I could use him, but he's an elite and he comes very early, so it takes a lot of tokens to level him up. He's also got less than average evasion again, but it's okay. I actually rate him a low tier 1 just because of how dependable he is. Unlike my English. Thunderdrum. General damage buff, 3 AP to deal damage to a rival dragon and stun lock them. The one thing I don't like about this is that, you know, we just had Snafflefang that can stun. Locking ability is okay, but it's not as good as an outright stun. If you had to choose between Thunderdrum or Snafflefang, it would obviously be choose Snafflefang. Because whilst the ability lock is nice, there are just better alternatives, and that's simply it. On its own, it's okay. At least it has a slightly higher evasion chance, but it's tier 2. Skullcrusher, that's an interesting one. Where do I put him? Here. Basic, first ability. Second one, yeah, Skullcrushers are interesting. Interesting. With Skullcrusher, his second ability, all rival dragons must attack this dragon for 2 turns. It's like a taunt, basically. If you've played any sort of MMO. Third ability, shield by 30% and restores health to that dragon as well by 15%. My problem with Skullcrusher is that he was not built for Brawl very well. Again, Brawl is all about dealing damage to a singular dragon, getting them down, getting them weak. And you don't want to get to a point where you have to actually heal your dragons, because you don't need to get to that point. You can avoid that. Unless, of course, you just don't have the dragons for it. But, you know, when you've got the dragons, you don't need to be healing yourself ever, if you do it right. So Skullcrusher basically is pointless, depending on what dragons you have. And this whole taunt idea, all rival dragons must attack this dragon for 2 turns. They're still dealing damage to you, and they're still going to off your dragon. It doesn't really make much of a difference. In fact, you're giving them sort of more of a, you're making the AI do the strategy that I would do, where you're just focusing on one dragon. That's how you win. You're just giving them the win. And I just don't think this is a really useful ability. Once Skullcrusher goes, if you can't afford to keep him alive enough, once he goes, you've got less AP to work with, and that's, it can easily be avoided. He's also got less evasion. Just the whole idea of protecting yourself when you don't really need to. It's just wasting and takes ages. If you're at the beach waving a chip around and a seagull comes to eat it, maybe you shouldn't have been waving the chip around, and maybe you should have put it in your mouth. Just don't overcomplicate it. Just eat your chip. I don't know where that analogy went. Okay. Tier 4 for him as well. Yeah, lowest of the low. I just don't see his him being very versatile. Might work well if you've got a specific team in mind, but again, Champion Windnasher. Going from the lowest to the top, I like Champion Windnasher. I think that's how you say it, Windnasher. Probably not. Now, his basic attack is incredible because it's an attack, but he heals himself, or she heals himself. They heals themselves. You know, and this is a basic attack. It doesn't cost any AP. And with the Protector Dragon, he's already beefy as hell because Protector Dragons have high HP. He's going to be staying alive for ages, which is what you want when he has a 5 AP attack that does this. Deals damage to all rival dragons, affects all rival dragons, and they can't act for 2 turns. Sleep. It's basically a stun. And I think if you do attack a sleeping dragon, it does wake up. But if you're doing the tactic, you know, where you're focusing on one dragon at a time, they're gonna be sleeping for 2 turns. It's fine. And that is amazing. A stun for 2 turns, for all dragons. This is a very nice dragon, and I rated it tier 1. I mean, it is 5 AP, but it's just so easy to get to because you've got all this this beefiness keeping it alive. So no, it's good. Meatlug is another interesting one with interesting abilities. She has basic damage. Her second ability increases the attack strength of all protected dragons for 2 turns by 30%. Again, this is a little bit weird because protected dragons are all about protecting and buffing themselves, healing themselves, keeping themselves alive. But in this case, I mean, having other protected dragons usually means you can have other dragons healing Meatlug, so she doesn't have to heal herself. So it's not as bad as the Furious counterpart, I think. But 3 protected dragons is not something I would often use in Brawl, just because there is that round limit. And when you get to the round limit, it draws, and you don't get any points for that, and you wasted your time. Sorry, but you know, it's just how it is. So I generally, you know, 3 protected dragons, you're gonna stay alive, but it takes ages, and it's just not worth it. So Meatlug is much better to use in Gauntlet, I think. Much better. But this third ability is what tops it. It reflects all incoming damage for 2 turns. So essentially what you do is you target one of your own dragons, whether that be Meatlug or some other dragon, and they'd have this reflect. Any dragon that attacks that reflected ability will have the damage dealt be reflected back onto them. It does what it says on the can. This is just a little bit harder to pinpoint with AI because you don't, I mean, sometimes it's obvious what dragon they'll go for, but other times they'll go for what the frick they want. It's mainly more useful when you don't have all 3 dragons. But again, you don't want to lose your dragons in the first place. So Meatlug's a little bit of a weird one. The reflect works really well actually, and if you are the last one left, it will save you the game because it's amazing. Even if you have all 3 dragons pinning against Meatlug, they'll just wipe themselves out. It's pretty funny. So Meatlug again is one of those that you're gonna have to just really strategize with a proper team. Low tier 2. You just gotta use it well, sort of thing, but that second ability is kind of meh. Next is the Timberjack. He is so average. They're a very average dragon. You get like a water bottle and the ingredients say water. It's just like this, you know. It's a bottle of protector. It's not even mineral water. It's just does what it does. General attacks and deals damage to all rival dragons for 3 AP. It's one of the ones you start out with, so understandably it's simple and basic. Not so good evasion, but just because it is so average, you know, it's tier 2, tier 3. It's just Gronckle over here. Gronckle starts at grade 1, but I leveled him to grade 5 because I'm a dummy. Anyway, yeah, he starts off at grade 1, so very, very early in basic. And like the Timberjack, you've got the basic attack and basic buff, and deals damage to all rival dragons for 3 AP. Also has less evasion, exact same ranking as Timberjack. They are basically the same dragon. Like I think, yeah, evasion 6 here. I know they're going to be different, but yeah. One or the other. Really just depends on which one you like more aesthetically. Rumblehorn. Gotta get these right now. Damage, health, and the third ability, which is actually 3 AP, so that's nice. Shields an ally dragon by 25% and removes the negative effects from that ally dragon. It's good for a protected dragon, definitely. Definitely useful in Gauntlet, but again, this is Brawl. It's nice that it's only 3 AP, so that makes it a little bit more worth it. But a shield isn't the same as health, and shield can be a little bit hard to strategize with because it's rather unclear of how far that shield will take you, and that shield also blocks your view of your actual health, which I don't really like, and it becomes very unclear of yeah, what status your dragon actually is, because once that shield's gone, you know, he could have like this amount of health left and you wouldn't know. But still okay. Tier 2. He does what he needs to. Now on to Cunning. Okay. So we've got Soaring Sidekick. I think Soaring Sidekick is only available to the Light Fury, I think. I could be wrong. But he starts out basic. Ooh. Sorry. General damage, general weakness, but his third ability is dealing damage to all rival dragons and confusing them. Now, confusing AI is, I mean, it's already hard to sort of predict what the AI can do. Confusion is going to affect you way more than it affects the AI. And I don't think it's a very good ability to use in Brawl or Gauntlet in general, really. It must have been something that was around back when Brawl was multiplayer with other players. Maybe, I don't know, don't quote me on that one. But I just don't see it actually ever being useful for AI, because they'll just do whatever they want anyway, like, they don't know what they're doing. Also has a low evasion. I rate him a tier 3. I mean, he's okay for his first 2 abilities, and tier 3 can save you sometimes, but it's really just luck of the draw, so I try not to rely on the luck factor too much. Stormcutter. Basic attack, weakness, and one of the best abilities in the game, I think. Deals damage to all rival dragons and restores health to all ally dragons, which is amazing. This helps more than you might think. It's also only 4 AP. The fact that it doesn't buff or debuff means you won't have dragons that will remove those buffs. I mean, when something's got its health restored, you know, that's it. You just gotta work down on it more again. So it's simple, but it worked very well. It's tier 1, and I bring Stormcutter with me wherever I go. He's like the dog in the back seat of my car. Just don't wind the window down too far, because this time he's gonna fly out. Literally. Barf Belch. Nah. Don't like him. General damage. Second ability has a 3 AP, deals damage to a rival dragon and poisons them. For 2 turns and only by 5%, and 5% is not actually that much. Thing is, obviously you want to be focusing on dragons one at a time anyway. You just want to do it hard and as fast, and having these gradual debuffs can really hard to plan with. General debuffs can also be removed, and when I've been poisoned by Barf and Belch, it hasn't been that much of an impact to me. It just feels like a slightly more damaging attack. I mean, it doesn't really make that much of a difference from what I can tell. Its third ability is even more blech. It speeds up all cunning dragons for 2 turns, restores health to all cunning dragons. You know, it might be great in Gauntlet, but Brawl, again, I mean, you might have 3 cunning dragons and that's okay, but speed in itself isn't all that great because it's very hard to strategize with. Restoring health is nice, it's only 15% though, and I just can't see Barf and Belch being very useful. There are just better alternatives. He's got at least a slightly higher evasion, but I honestly rank him tier 4. Exotic Smothering Smokebreath. Same deal as Soaring Sidekick. He's got the 4 AP, deals damage to all rival dragons, and confuses them. Again, pretty much just what I said before. This time I rank him between, well, I rated Soaring Sidekick a tier 3. He had very low evasion. Exotic Smothering Smokebreath has a little bit of a higher evasion, so he's sort of between tier 2 and tier 3. The evasion, again, doesn't make a big difference, but yeah, might as well. Hideous Zippleback. Nope. Yeah. Basic attacks, and third ability is to deal damage to all rival dragons. Again, very basic. It says it right there on the can. You got a can of Hideous Zippleback Cunning Dragon, 99% fat free. You open it up, and whoa, there's a Hideous Zippleback Cunning Dragon in there. Who would have thought? It's very basic. It's okay for starting out, but there are better options later on. Tier 3. Low evasion as well. Flightmare. Basic first 2 attacks. His third ability is 3 AP to slow a rival dragon and decrease the attack strength. It's okay, but again, speed hardly makes that much of a difference, I find, and again, very hard to strategize with. You gotta play it right, basically. You only really want to obviously slow down a dragon that's going to make the most impact on you, and slowing him down so you have a higher chance that you're going to down him sooner rather than later before he can attack you. But it doesn't make too much of a difference. High tier 3. Champion Triple Strike. And as triple strikes are, attack 3 times. Small damage, general weakness, but his 5th ability deals damage to all rival dragons, removes the positive effects from said rival dragons, and ability locks them. It's no champion Wind Nasher, but it's still pretty decent. It still deals a lot of damage, and ability lock is still nice, especially when it's applied to all of them. Not going to say no to that. I give it a high tier 3, just because 5 AP is still a lot, and you can strategize things a little bit better with less AP, but it's still okay. Sorry, did I say high tier 3? High tier 2. High tier 2. Also has high evasion. Exotic Whispering Death, one that is also kind of scary to face against, because they hurt. Basic damage, weakness, and this only meager 3 AP to deal damage to a rival dragon and remove positive effects. It hurts so much. You can't buff yourself against this, you are going to die. It's especially useful with my tactic, you know, focusing on one dragon at a time. This will kill. Only problem is he starts out at grade 3. It's going to take you ages to really level his grade up, but if you've got him, he's great. Tier 2, just little low evasion. Raincutter. I like Raincutter as well. Wish I could use it more, but starts off at grade 3. Here, the third ability deals damage to a rival dragon, ability locks them, and restores health to itself, which is awesome. If you, the Raincutter, and some other monstrous dragon are on the field, you are always going to win with Raincutter if you're the last one standing. The health up and the ability lock is incredible. And it's only 3 AP. Even in a full team, it is helpful as well if you're focusing on one dragon at a time, or even if, you know, it doesn't take much to, you know, if you got Dagur Skrill over there, just give him a little ability lock, you know, just a little. It's only 3 AP, and it restores health. It's nice. So, you know, it's a high tier 2, almost tier 1, I would say. Yeah, low tier 1, high tier 2. Its evasion is a little bit poor, that's the only thing, but at least it can heal itself to make up for that. And Fanghook. General, deals damage to a rival dragon. Again, this is like the Exotic Whispering Death, but this is 4 AP, and it's just not, it's just not like, it's not 3 AP, that's pretty much it. Low evasion, there are better options. It's a tier 3. Alright, Swift. I hardly ever play Swift. I'm just gonna put that out right now. The whole basis of Swift Dragons is that they rely on their speed, and speed is unreliable. Speed is hard to strategize with in a game that I'm trying to, you know, be strategic about. I'm sure you could, you know, randomly go about with 3 Swift Dragons and take them all out fine, but it's just, yeah, not reliable. Not to mention, Swift Dragons are the weakest in health. They don't have that much defense either. When I'm playing against the AI in Brawl, Swift Dragons are the first ones I go for because it's just an easy way of getting rid of their AP. Just incredibly easy. They're weak. You get rid of them, and there's none of this stupid time shifting with speed, and the battlefield is just a lot more easier to handle without the Swift Dragons in there, just because strategy. So that's, yeah, my general disclaimer for all Swift Dragons. We'll start with Edge Nadder. And as a little Swift, they've got their attack and they've got their attack strength debuff. And obviously, speed up all allied dragons, 2 turns, 25%, and it gives you AP points. Now, that giving AP points is kind of nice, actually, but in cases where you're speeding yourself up and you don't actually have a good attack in the first place, it's kind of pointless. Like, you basically, you're dealing a lot of damage, but in bursts. And it's unreliable. I rate it a tier 3. It doesn't have that great of evasion either. Skrill. Skrill's okay. Deals damage to a rival dragon and ability locks them. So it's kind of like Raincutter, except doesn't have a heal back, so not as good. But you know, it works. Slightly less evasion. I give it tier 2, low tier 2. Champion Steel Trap. His basic attack deals damage to all rival dragons, but because it's a swift, it's just piss poor damage. It's nothing. Um, and I mean, it's so little that, um, you might not even be able to down already weak opponents, but that depends. Has the attack debuff, and I think this was 4 AP to slow all rival dragons and speed up this dragon. I feel like this would be more. Well, it also does deal damage to all rival dragons, and it's okay for 4 AP. It's not a bad attack considering that it also slows them down while speeding you up, which is, instead of a 25% difference, it's obviously 50%, and that is way more noticeable. It's harder to plan for, but I mean, when it's 50%, and you can sort of expect that, you know, you're gonna have Champion Steel Trap have another go. Just unfortunately, again, piss poor damage, so what can he do anyway? But tier 2. It's better, but Swift are very weak. Toothless. Unfortunately, not the best. I'm sorry, Toothless. General damage, weakness. Deals damage to a single rival dragon and speeds up this dragon 2 turns 25%. It's actually garbage. You know, you're not even you're not even bad. You're garbage. It's not that much damage from what I can remember, and again, just speeding up this dragon is okay, but you can't deal much damage in the first place. And it's 4 AP. I think it would be more reasonable if it was 3 AP, because again, 4 AP generally I'd use for more than one dragon, but 4 AP for one single dragon is too much. However, he has a wickedly high evasion. At grade 30, he's got an evasion of 22. And there are dragons with like an evasion of 7 at grade 30. So evasion 22 is immense, and that's the only reason it's still in tier 2 and not tier 3, because apparently he can just dodge like nothing else, which I guess is true. I've watched the movies. Stormfly. Damage, this weird one. Second ability, exchange effects with a rival dragon. Now, another thing with Brawl is that you want to use up the AP points that you have. You don't really want to go. Once you reach the 5 AP limit, you can't go over 5. That's it. You're at the 5. That's capped. So you want to use the AP that you have, and you want the abilities to use to actually do something for you. But if you get to a point where you're a Stormfly and you've got 5 AP and this third ability that's not even that useful, exchange effects with a rival dragon is very situational. Because first of all, you'd have to have some, either a debuff on one of your own or a buff on their side. And it doesn't do any damage on its own either. It's kind of awful. And again, this third ability increases defense of all Swift dragons. This is more okay since Swift are very, very weak. So if you've got 3 Swift dragons, yeah, it's okay. But it doesn't even speed them up or anything. So and it doesn't deal damage again. Stormfly, low tier 3, basically tier 4. Not great. Whispering Death. Basic third ability increases the attack strength of an ally dragon for 3 turns instead of 2, and also speeds up said dragon for 3 turns. 3 AP for 3 turns of buffs is actually not bad. Just again, it's a little bit hard to deal with, but at least with the ability to choose what dragon you're buffing can actually be really decent. Because you know, if your Whispering Death is almost dead, buffing yourself is pointless. But at least in your dying breath, you can buff some other dragon with much higher health, which I think is actually pretty useful. So he's going tier 2-ish 3, high tier 3, low tier 2. Because once again, the speed I just don't think is that useful, but it's better than most. Compared to other Swift Dragons, I should say. Sorry, I'm so racist against Swift Dragons, I'm sorry. Smothering Smokebreath. Starts off at a little grade 2. But again, Confusion for 3 AP deals damage to a rival dragon. It's not a lot, and it's Confusion. They're gonna attack you anyway. It's still gonna hurt. Tier 3, Lord Tier 3. Hofferson's Bane. They're very nice dragon. Basic attacks, but this 5 AP deals damage to all rival dragons and slows them all down, which is not too bad. Again, it's using the speed, but it's okay. There's not too much to say about it. It's just it deals damage, slows them down. Low tier 2. Cloud Jumper. Basic attacks. This third ability that looks pretty cool. Restores health to all ally dragons and shields them by 25%, and increases Cloud Jumper's to defense, which is awesome. It's strangely a very supportive ability for a Swift Dragon, which can be a little bit hard considering, you know, Swift Dragons die easily because of their small health pool, so it would be kind of difficult to get to 5 AP sometimes. But if you do play it, I mean, it's a lot of health, and it's alright. Just because it does so much. Tier 2, I would put it. Whip and Lash. His third ability is 4 AP that deals damage to a single dragon, ability locks them, and slows them down. Now, I don't understand this ability locking and slowing them down. Like, I would just take the ability lock and have that as a 3 AP. Slowing them down and ability locking is just like an insult to injury. I mean, it's okay, because I mean, you might as well just stun them, really. That's just the basis of all this. And it, again, 4 AP for a single dragon is too much. Tier 3 for this one. Last one, amazingly, we've gotten this far. Seedling Rumblehorn. His third attack increases the attack strength of all allied dragons, and also increases the defense of all allied dragons. And it does this for 3 AP, which is incredible. Absolutely amazing. And you know, there's no catch about it. It's you're gonna have a very beefy team. And it's 3 AP, it's a Swift Dragon, it'll get to it fast. It's low health pool, so yeah, no waiting around for something that's 5 AP. It'll do it, and it'll increase its own defense, meaning it'll stay alive longer, and you'll be able to target other dragons quicker as well. It's just a shame the grade starts off fairly low. It's going to take you a while to level them up to be any decent, but high tier 2. Just a low evasion compared to average, but yeah, it's okay. So, amazingly after all that, that's sort of the conclusion I've come to for all of these. I know a lot of people are going to think probably differently about 1 or 2. That's fine. Again, it really depends on your playstyle. Depends on how you prefer things. But I hope it's been insightful in some way. Yeah, I love Stormcutter. And yeah, just if you do have any queries about Brawl or stuff in general, I would like to answer. I'm obsessed with this game and just strategizing for it. We've also got a bunch of other tools, and we do have a Discord server as well. So yeah, all good. Have fun.